You assume that when you see the world, you are looking at something external, a field of form separate from your awareness. You believe perception connects you to what is out there. But Ibn Arabi questioned this certainty. He asked whether perception truly divides the observer from the observed, or whether it is the single act through which the real recognizes itself. If awareness is not an act you perform, but an event of being itself, then the question changes. When you look, who is really seeing? Is the human being perceiving existence, or is existence perceiving itself through the human being? Ibn Arabi taught that perception is not a human faculty, but a divine process, a meeting between what appears and what is absolute. Ibn Arabi, born in 12th century Andalusia, inherited both the rational structure of philosophy and the contemplative depth of Sufism. He used reason not to explain the world, but to reveal its hidden unity. He called this unity Wadat al-Wujud, the unity of being thought to him. All existence was one reality appearing in infinite modes. The human mind, with its distinctions of subject and object, divides this unity for comprehension. But perception itself, the moment of knowing, never divides thought in that instant. The real knows itself in the form of consciousness thought. This is the ground from which his entire vision of knowledge unfolds. You tend to think of reflection as duplication, an image, corresponding to something else. But Ibn Arabi reversed this logic. Reflection is not imitation. It is realization. Awareness does not produce a copy of reality. It allows reality to recognize itself. When you perceive a thought, a person, or an idea, the act of perception is not secondary. It is primary. It is the real disclosing one of its aspects through the faculty of knowing. In that disclosure, two things seem to exist, the perceiver and the perceived. But they are only two interpretations of one act. If the real is both knower and known, where does the boundary of you begin or end? For Ibn Arabi, the human being occupies a unique position in existence. Among all created forms, only the human encompasses every divine attribute. You can reason, imagine, love, remember, and act. Each quality mirrors a particular name of the real. This is why he said that the human is the locus of divine self-recognition. When you understand, it is not a personal triumph. It is the unfolding of awareness recognizing itself in a specific way. Yet, this realization is easily concealed by self-ownership, the claim that knowing belongs to you. But can a part own the act of the whole? Or is it simply the place where the whole reveals itself most completely? You think of perception as an encounter between two entities, the one who sees and the thing that is seen. But Ibn Arabi insisted that such division arises only in the conceptual mind. Perception itself is a single movement. Not to divide awareness from its content is to imagine a gap that does not exist in reality. What you call I and what you call world are inseparable aspects of one. Continuous knowing. To see is to participate in that unity. The question then deepens. If awareness is one and indivisible, what exactly distinguishes the human observer from the divine observer? Or is the distinction only linguistic? Ibn Arabi explained that unity does not exclude difference. Multiplicity is not opposition but expression. The real discloses its infinity through variety, each form a statement of one attribute. Diversity allows the one to be known in countless ways. Your individuality, therefore, is not an error but a necessary mode of revelation. Every being plays its role in the articulation of the same truth. The purpose of multiplicity is not to divide the real, but to make its unity intelligible. Without the many, the one would remain unspoken. Through forms, being comes to know its own richness. You often feel that awareness belongs to you, that you are the one who thinks, chooses, and sees. But Ibn Arabi calls this an inversion. The I does not generate awareness. Awareness generates the I. You are not the source of perception, but the point within it where it becomes self-aware. This realization shifts the axis of understanding. You do not possess consciousness. Consciousness expresses itself as you. When the claim of ownership dissolves, perception loses its boundaries. There is only one awareness, taking different perspectives within itself. If every experience arises in that awareness, what remains that can be called separate or personal? For Ibn Arabi, to know is not to accumulate. True knowledge is remembrance, the return of awareness to its own origin. When you understand something deeply, you do not add to yourself. You recover what was always known in potential. Knowing, then, is not movement toward truth, but the unveiling of what is already true. The knower, the act of knowing, and the known are one process. In this light, the human intellect is not a producer of meaning, but an aperture through which meaning reawakens to itself. Knowledge, therefore, is not acquisition but identity recognized. As understanding matures, the idea of separation begins to collapse. If perception is divine in origin, then even the act of seeking the real becomes paradoxical. You cannot search for what is already seeing through you. At this point, the notion of mirror loses function. There is no reflection and no reflected, only the immediacy of awareness, aware of itself. The world and the divine are not two poles meeting. They are one process unfolding. To call it God or creation is merely to name two perspectives within a single reality. When naming ceases, only knowing remains pure, unmediated, whole. The question you began with dissolves. What you sought as an image is revealed as the structure of knowing itself. There is no observer standing before existence. There is only existence observing itself through countless forms. You are not a creature looking toward God. You are awareness, momentarily shaped into the experience of looking. Ibn Arabi's secret method was not mystical technique, but intellectual precision. The recognition, the perception, when understood rightly, is already divine. To see God's face is not to transcend the world, but to realize that no act of seeing has ever belonged to anyone else. In this recognition, thought quiets. What remains is clarity without question, the stillness of understanding itself. You may wonder how this understanding enters ordinary life. Ibn Arabi would say that it changes not what you do, but how you know what you do. When you speak, think, or choose, each act can be recognized as a movement of the same awareness. Responsibility does not vanish. It deepens. Actions are no longer personal achievements, but expressions of a larger intelligence moving through the human form. This recognition frees you from pride and despair alike. For pride depends on ownership, and despair depends on separation. When both dissolve, only participation remains. Awareness, realizing itself in every gesture of thought. You began by believing that you perceive the world from a distance. Now you see that perception itself is the intimacy of being with itself. The mirror you imagined between You and God was only a habit of thought, a structure. The mind used to organize experience. Ibn Arabi's insight removes even that division. There is no mirror, no face, no distance. There is only awareness recognizing its own presence through countless names and forms. When you realize this, you do not become something greater. You return to what was always complete. Seeing is no longer an act you perform. It is what you are. And in that understanding, every question